Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me there good? Back there? Cool, awesome. And feel free to continue enjoying your breakfast. And well, so let's see. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fall edition of the Female Founders, and Fortifiers Breakfast Series. My name is Laura Aguirre Polo, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm the success manager for belonging at Genesis, and I would like to recognize Denika and Debbie, the ASL interpreters from Triangular Communications, who will provide live interpretation throughout the event. It's an absolute honor to be here today representing Genesis in front of this fantastic group of people, some of whom are women in tech, women founders, women leaders, and their supporters. The Female Founders, and Fortifiers Breakfast Series is powered by BDC Capital's Women in Technology Venture Fund. These 4F breakfasts are held across Canada through partnerships with various startup accelerators and incubators. And we are thankful BDC gave Genesis the opportunity to host the Newfoundland edition of this breakfast. So thank you. Today's edition of the 4F Breakfast is a very special one because techNL, BDC, and Genesis came together to make this event a reality during the 9th Annual Innovation Week. Today, we also have the fortune of having more than 150 people register and joining us in person and online. So we're really excited for that, and thank you so much for being here. With these initiatives, Genesis aims to create safe spaces where women founders, women in tech, and their allies come together to learn from one another and support each other. Genesis believes that these initiatives are crucial to promote and celebrate the advancement of women founders and women in tech. These initiatives also contribute towards creating a more diverse and equitable tech and entrepreneurial ecosystem, where issues such as underrepresentation, pay, and funding gaps impacting women and people from equity-deserving groups are eliminated. So thank you all for joining us. Some housekeeping items before we get started. As you may have seen, the washrooms are just on that side by the buffet. Coffee, tea, and water will be available throughout the event. And we will do our best to stick to schedule. So around from 10:55 to 11:30 a.m., there will be a casual networking session, and you will also have the opportunity to get some nice photos taken at the Hijinks NL photo booth that is just right there, and also a woman-owned business who is also joining us here today. So really take this opportunity to get a nice photo, a fun photo with your team, by yourself, and don't forget to tag, post it on social media and tag hashtag 4FBreakfastNL. And then we will also have other hashtags for techNL that we also really want you to use, and I believe Marlene will be telling you a little bit about it. I also encourage you to visit Nucleic Bio and Pragma Clean tables. These two are some of our Genesis enterprise companies. Their tables are just in the lobby right there. They are really excited to tell you about their incredible work, their business, and they have some surprises for you. Also, the co-founders for Pragma Clean and for Nucleic are some of our panelists, so really, you don't want to miss that. And before we get started, I would like to invite my dear coworker, Maggie Koresh, the Startup Development Coordinator for Pre-Incubation at Genesis, to offer the land acknowledgement. Thank you.
We acknowledge that the lands on which Memorial University's campuses are situated are in the traditional territories of diverse indigenous groups, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. And now I want to invite Natasha Hudson, the Regional Manager for Partnerships at BDC, to offer some opening remarks.
Well, good morning, everyone. First off, thanks to everybody for coming, and thank you to Lara and the team at the Genesis Center, Robin, Maggie, everyone there for all of their effort to make this happen this morning. It's wonderful. It's really nice to see everyone in person again. I don't know about you folks, but I certainly feel an energy being able to come out and see. It's great to do things virtually, but it's better to do it in person. And it's the largest one in the world. And it's not just about direct investment, it's also about indirect investment, and there's also a Thrive Lab in there, and so that's going to be focused on addressing gaps in the ecosystem, and this kind of collaboration is where we're going to see Thrive supporting and elevating and ensuring that women in technology have the opportunities in front of them. Last but not least, I just wanted to acknowledge my colleagues here in the room today. So I have Adam Bateman and Evan Green alongside of me, two staunch supporters of the technology sector in Newfoundland and Labrador and of the Women in Technology group at the Genesis Center. I think it's important to note that we advance women by including everyone in the room. So without further ado, I'm going to step away and hope everyone enjoys the panel. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you again for being here this morning.
Thank you so much, Natasha and BDC. I would like now to invite Marlene Hardy, the Director for Innovation Programs at techNL.
Good morning. I'm so happy to be here today and to be sharing some remarks on behalf of techNL. For those of you who attended the opening of techNL's Innovation Week on Tuesday, our CEO, Florian Viome, who's here today, presented the updated vision for techNL that has been developed following a comprehensive strategic planning process, including many member and stakeholder feedback sessions. The new vision and purpose include a concerted focus on helping Newfoundland and Labrador become the most sought-after Canadian ecosystem, globally recognized for its collaborative community, diversity, and quality of life. And in that vision, diversity is central, because diversity, we know in all its forms, not only makes organizations better, but communities better. We know we need diverse representation and perspectives to grow and scale our companies and our Newfoundland and Labrador technology sector. And frankly, we still have a long way to go with respect to that diversity part of our newly penned vision in order to make that a reality. But despite the challenge, I do feel inspired by the power of this network to continue to confront the status quo and be leaders for positive change. At techNL, we strive to embed diversity, equity, and inclusion in all that we do. We endeavor to have representative views in our work and at our events. We are currently working with WRDC on a survey to measure diversity and employee experience of those working in the tech sector, taking into consideration intersectionality. We've created a diversity steering committee of industry partners to help light the path forward and move the needle in a positive direction. Diversity is especially important for our techNL talent initiatives in the pursuit to close the talent gap. The past 2 summers, techNL delivered a programming bootcamp and internship program for high school students, thanks to support from ACOA, the Province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and Kean College, as well as our member companies that worked with the students. When we look at feedback from the girls and gender-diverse student participants, they expressed that exposure to the tech sector boosted their confidence and raised their awareness of the many opportunities in the sector. Hands-on experience and exposure to women and non-binary professionals and to any equity-deserving groups in tech has such a positive impact on our youth. Some of the ways we've been encouraging engaging with students include meaningful two-way conversations with girls and non-binary individuals, exploring opportunities for leadership and career development, as well as mentorship. I do have a special request for you today. If you received an I Heart Tech Newfoundland Labrador t-shirt, I'll ask that we're challenging everybody to post a photo of themselves in the t-shirt and share what they love about working in tech in Newfoundland and Labrador. And we're working to raise the awareness of the sector in a global way. Let's get the word out how amazing it is to work here in Newfoundland. So the hashtag, if you will share a picture, is I love techNL. And if you don't have a t-shirt, my amazing colleague Leah is here. She's here in the front, and she can actually get you a t-shirt if you'd like one. So I encourage you to see Leah, get a t-shirt, and then post why you love being in Newfoundland and Labrador and the tech sector. So role models are important to show the way forward. You are all role models, and we need you. From a personal perspective, my 2 children are now young adults, but when they were babies, I took time off from the traditional workforce for several years to stay at home with them. And it was quite a challenge to get back into the traditional workforce and to a career that I love. But what truly helped me along the way was the support of key allies who shared advice, made introductions, and provided much needed encouragement. When I look around the room today, I see so many supportive faces of allies that lift up so many others every day. I'm thankful to be part of this community, and I look forward to continuing our work together. There is so much that we can and will accomplish together. Thank you to Genesis and to BDC for hosting this breakfast today, to bring us all together, for helping to create a vibrant network, and for working with our ecosystem partners to build the diverse tech sector that we all want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marlene and techNL. Okay, so now I'm super excited to introduce you, Andrea King. Let's see here. Okay, yes, Andrea King, just figuring out the tech. The head of government relations and strategic partnerships at Verafin, an anti-financial crime platform that helps financial institutions detect criminal activity. Andrea has a global perspective from working in over 25 countries, media knowledge from her time as CEO of State 23 Media, and real-life entrepreneurial experience from launching, operating, and selling a business. Andrea is a passionate supporter of female founders and building a community of women investors. She sits on the board of the Atlantic Women's Venture Foundation, and is currently launching the Atlantic Women's Angel Fund. When she's not working, you will find her brainstorming business ideas with her kids. They are working on their 3rd venture, dreaming up screenplays for comedy, movies, or traveling, and more traveling. She has an MA in International Relations, an MBA from London Business School, and is a certified anti-money laundering specialist. Andrea is joining us today to moderate the panel that we have planned for you today. But before we get started with the panel, Andrea has a very exciting announcement for you. Welcome, Andrea.
Excellent, thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to talk about female entrepreneurship in Atlantic Canada and to talk to our 4 panelists that we're going to talk to. We're going to talk about pitching, about raising funds, overcoming challenges, advancing equality, and just kind of get some really great stories about working in the Atlantic provinces. But yes, as Laura said, before that I'm going to share some great news. As we've heard over the last couple of days, access to funding and capital is absolutely essential to anybody trying to launch a business. We know that there aren't enough women investors. Just interesting fact, there's only 24% of angel investors are women, and even less so in venture capital. And that was going to lead to biases, whether they're unconscious biases or conscious, if there's only men investors at the table. So we want to change that. Atlantic companies obviously can use more access to investment, In 2020, only 3% of angel investing in Canada occurred in the Atlantic provinces. We don't have an angel fund yet, but founders in this region were still able to access $27 million in angel funding. So, there's great companies here that deserve to have easier access to angel funds. We also know that women face more challenges in raising funds. 1/5 of the startups in Atlantic Canada are led by women, but only raised 8% of total funding last year. And there's also plenty of evidence that women-led startups outperform all male founded startups. So all of this has led myself, Kathy Bennett, Shannon McDonald, and Lori McKeegan, and some other women from the region to launch an Atlantic Women's Angel Fund, which we are hoping to launch next month. Yes. It's really, really exciting and very needed. So we want to invest in women-led startups. We want to build up the community of women investors. We want to see more women at this table. And we want to do it all here in the Atlantic provinces. So very exciting. We are going to have about 30 investors. There's a couple of seats left, so if you want to learn more, reach out to me. Our first fund is going to be between $150,000 and $200,000, and we're going to invest in 3 to 4 startups. So, want to hear from people who want to learn more about this. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our panel this morning. Do I click here? There we go. Leanne DeLos Reyes. She is the founder of Milksta, a lactation drink company that she built and bootstrapped from scratch. For about a decade, Leanne worked as a multimedia professional with the largest TV network in her home country, the Philippines. And in 2018, she started to call Newfoundland her home. She's a certified breastfeeding specialist who passionately shares her knowledge with mothers and mothers-to-be. We've already had a bonding experience this morning talking about this. Leanne is also a local celebrity from her success when she was on the Dragon's Den. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you go look it up. It was a great episode. Also a fun fact, one of her sons thought that she worked at Facebook because she was a member of so many Facebook groups where she was organically promoting and selling her startup. So welcome. Oh, my slides have disappeared. Do you want me to? Oh, yes, come on. Oh. Hi. All right, next up, we have Nikki Rendalala, and she is the co-founder of Nucleic Biologics, which launched in April of 2019. She's an entrepreneur, passionate scientist, and has a PhD in oncology and cancer biology from Memorial. And she has over a decade of scientific research experience. I got to witness Nikki pitch early on when I was a judge at the Mel Woodward Cup in 2020, where Nucleic was the winner of that. And since then, her company has raised capital, navigated government funding, and was featured on the CBC show Silicon Island. So look forward to hearing your thoughts. Come on up. Next up, we've got Bronwyn Bridges. Bronwyn is the CEO and co-founder of PragmaClin, which started about a year and a half ago. Bronwyn grew up in the small town of Summerside, PEI. In 2020, she graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Biology and Psychology from St. Francis Xavier in Nova Scotia. She is now working on her PhD in pharmacy at Memorial, where she is examining neurodegenerative protections for patients with Parkinson's disease. Her company has raised over $300,000 in funding from several pitch competitions and from grants such as the Global Student Entrepreneurship Award, the Mel Woodward Cup, and Bounce Health Embryo Grants Competition. Welcome. And certainly, last but not least, Charlene Brophy is the president and CEO of PhoneMed, an international telemedicine company which started in 2000. She has brought hands-on knowledge of our healthcare system into developing countries and communities which otherwise would not have access to medical care. She has been recognized and gotten awards from multiple organizations for her success. She was awarded Enlo's Entrepreneurial Excellence Award in 2020. She was the recipient of 4 Business Excellence Awards from St. John's Board of Trade. She was awarded the CBC Innovator of the Year by Atlantic Business Magazine in 2017, and recognized as one of the top 50 CEOs in Atlantic Canada from 2017 to 2021. And last year, Charlene was inducted into the Business Excellence Hall of Fame by Atlantic Business Magazine. So please welcome our 4 panelists. Where is Charlene? There you are. All right. All right, welcome, ladies. All right, let's get started. I didn't talk too much about your companies because I wanted to give you the chance to tell us about your company. Kind of give us your elevator pitch, tell us what you do day to day, and how long you've been with your company, and how many people work with you. We'll start with Leanne.
Okay, so Milkstar, we create certified plant-based decaf, top 8 allergen-free lactation lattes for breastfeeding and pumping mothers to, support them with their milk production. It's been, basically, I soft launched it in 2019, January of 2019. And so right now, we basically are operating everything online, just with the help of technology. And our team is kind of small. We have 4 full-time people working, and we work with a few contractors here and there whenever we need something set up.
A very good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. So Nuclick started in 2019, and since then we started working on different aspects of how to develop this microbiome test. So basically, we work on microbiome-based solutions. So we study how the interactions between the microbiome, when I say microbiome, the microorganisms which live on you and inside you, and its interaction with the human body, and what health benefits you get out of it. So the very first product is the gut microbiome test, which we launched recently after 2 years of extensive research. And if you want to learn more, as Laura was saying, we have a table here. You can just talk to Patrick and Purvi and our team, which is here. So we just provide insights on how you can improve your health, overall health, based on your gut health, specifically concentrating on your microbiome. And we provide what types of food recommendations and the probiotics that are suitable for your gut, and how you can enhance your overall health. When I say overall health, it's your immune health, your mental health, and the digestive health priorly. And then improve in a segmented basis to see how you can enhance the health and avoid the future or the long-term diseases which can be coming. Because health is not tomorrow, which can be taken care of today or tomorrow. It's a long-term journey. So you have to be working each day, I think, towards it. So that's what Nuclick is about. Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. So my name is Bronwyn, and back when COVID started is how Pragmaclin came to be. So it was a bad thing for a lot of people, but for us it was kind of a blessing. So I started doing my research at Memorial, and when I was studying the antioxidant properties of blueberries, I actually met my co-founder, so Gord, who's in the audience here as well today. He is actually a Parkinson's patient himself, so he had come to one of the sessions that my supervisor was giving. And we ended up brainstorming through COVID about all the ways that we could improve the healthcare system, which there's a lot of ways. But we came up with Pragmaclin, which is a digital assessment tool that's placed in an office so that a patient can actually run through all the motor and non-motor assessments before seeing their neurologist. And then when they're in the office with a neurologist, they can actually then have a more targeted assessment that's based around what they actually need to be seen for, and hopefully then have a better treatment plan for their follow-on appointments. So we wanted to take a subjective assessment and make it a bit more objective so a patient felt a little more in touch with their disease progression, because we know what it's like to be lost in the healthcare system, and we wanted to make sure that Parkinson's patients specifically weren't suffering with that. So we started off with the team of 2 of us, And really kind of everything just took off from the Mel Woodward Cup back in March. And ever since then, we have been very quickly growing and finding a lot of partners in the industry. We're now a team of 9 and have several full-time employees now. So it's been a whirlwind, but a super exciting journey, and there's been a lot of support from the community. So that's a bit about us.
Hi folks, I'm Charlene Brophy and I'm CEO of FOMAT. I think you did a good job telling a little bit about what we do, and I don't want to bore you too much because I know you all hear me speak too much. So we're our virtual care company. We had very humble beginnings almost 25 years ago. We started here in St. John's, Newfoundland with one client, physician practice group in Southern Oregon that couldn't keep a doctor after hours. They had a small community hospital, so they decided that maybe if we hired nurses, then maybe we could continue to provide 24/7 care and so on. So we started off with one client, the doctor office in Southern Oregon. We had a group of investors that had put some money in from the US and started off here. We shared space initially with AT&T in the Fortis building because this client only sent us calls after hours. And when they went home at 4 o'clock, we moved in. And that's how we started. And for the first year, we didn't grow at all. And then year over year, we started to have a little bit of growth. But in the beginning, we had trouble keeping nurses because they didn't see a future and didn't think that we were sustainable. So in the early days, I wasn't an investor. I started as a nurse in the company answering triage calls. And we got to the point where we couldn't afford to keep paying everybody. So I said, in lieu of taking salary, I took some ownership in the company. And then, as everybody knows, once you got some skin in the game, everything changes. So then I begged and pleaded anybody who would listen to me to come try our service out. We started offering discounts to some current clients, giving them monthly free packages if they would refer another client to us, and gradually had some growth and so on. So we've grown from those very humble beginnings of one client group to having about 3,500 now, right throughout North America. And we spend not only to be a telemedicine service provider with doctors and nurses licensed in every state throughout the US and every province in Canada, to also becoming a software company. So we developed our own clinical platform and embedded in that about 800 clinical protocols to manage pretty much any patient's symptom or presenting complaint you can imagine. And I've had some great success in selling that. So we've licensed that throughout Canada, multiple provinces, multiple states throughout the US and internationally in various different countries, Bangladesh, Greece, Manila, last year in Singapore, and so on. So we've had some great success with that. And we today provide services to about 40 million individuals throughout the US and Canada, and provide employment and direct oversight for about 800 employees.
Amazing, thank you. I love that we have just the different stages of business development. You know, Bronwyn in the kind of early days, Nikki and Leanne, you're through almost 4 years in now, so, and then 25 years going strong, so this is great. Starting a business is not for the faint of heart. There's risks, you need funding, you need co-founders, you need a team, you need marketing, so many aspects. Tell me what you found to be the hardest part of starting a business, and did you have moments where you're like, I'm done, I'm giving up, and how did you get through those?
I think for me, initially when I was starting Milksta, so we are very new. We have just basically like landed in Newfoundland, no family, no friends. So my husband works offshore, so he's always away. Really like having the time to be able to start doing what I need to do. I also had like a full-time job back then. So that was the step back for me. I would say like I could have done maybe faster or maybe better if I had all the time in the world during the time. And I think it's also related to the time that I really wanted to just quit it, when there are times like my husband is offshore, I need to attend to something, I don't have my kids, to take care of them. And we've been fighting about it, like it's very personal, like quite a lot, like which one is like, I couldn't progress with what I'm doing because it just didn't match like the schedule and the family and the kids.
slightly it falls in the same situation, but mine was more towards, as I come from a science background, it was always research for me, and I always saw myself as a scientist. I am. I work in the lab and I design projects, but then I didn't see a scenario of starting a business. So that initiation itself was a struggle for me, that there is this way that you can head to. And also at the time, there were multiple things on the background. As you see on the front, you are a person, but then there are so many things going on, considering your family with the kids or your parents. So there were multiple things that were going on, and it was difficult to consider that this new initiation, which is completely new and very different from what I've been doing for so many years. And that initiation was the thing which was the risk, as we talk, getting into the unknown. So I think me and Purvi, we worked it out together to get that initiation together. So yeah.
Well, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm in the early days, but I think growing up, I was also a very strong academic, and that's how I ended up in a PhD. It was still a bit of a blur how that transition happened, but my research project, which became Pragmaclin, had a fast transition, and it was kind of like, are you going to do this or are you not going to do this? And it was a lot of pressure at once, but I was really grateful that I had a lot of support around me. And I had to kind of make that decision. Are you going to run a company or are you going to finish school? But luckily, my co-founder, Gord, was really supportive on the business side and was like, we can help, we can make it work so that you can finish your PhD. And the School of Pharmacy was like, we understand that this has become kind of life-consuming, and that's okay, and you can still do that and make it work. And so I think everybody just has fit very nicely into the whole situation, so I haven't had to make a do-or-die decision, and I've been really supportive in the journey of the transition from being able to still do school and being able to run the company. It's been a really great journey, and I'm really happy to be here, but there's been a lot of moments where I'm like, I can't do this. This is so stressful. So I'm just really grateful that I have people around me who understand that some days I'm like, I need to focus on this, and other days I can actually, focus on the work or focus on the school, vice versa.
God, I still have those moments. 2 o'clock this morning at the kitchen table as I was finalizing an RFP response, I thought, I'm going to become a Walmart greeter now. So I think we all have moments like that. But I mean, I share the stories that you guys have shared about when your kids were young and so on. And, we had talked about making pitches for the company and so on. I think my kids could pitch my company as well as I could because they've heard it so much from around the kitchen table, and they come from school in the evening and they'd come to my office and so on. So, there's no separation for me between work-life balance, work-life integration, and I loved and believed in what I did so much that it never seemed like a problem. It never seemed too overburdening to me and so on. So I think the key is to keep going through the tough times because you really believe in what you're doing and really making a difference. So everybody here is making a difference in the health and well-being in some way, shape, or form of other people and so on. And how wonderful is that, So I think it's just, stay true to what you really believe is your core passion and mission of the organization, and all of the rest will just fade into the past.
I love that. That's great. Building on that, so you guys are leaders in the company, and you're probably not the only ones who are going to experience challenges, and the company will have hard times sometimes. How do you lead your team through hard times? We'll start over here.
You know what? I think it's show by, it's lead by example, and I've always believed that. I've never asked anyone to work any harder than I work. And I think there's especially when you talk about women entrepreneurs and how do we encourage women to succeed and so on. And some of our, leadership in our organization have young families and so on. And they got to leave. They got to pick them up at daycare. They got to bring them to the dentist, Jennifer. And so this happens, and we were all there. So I think we encourage them by understanding. And there's times for everybody, and there's times for me when I'm traveling that others pick up the pieces and so on. So I think it's just lead by example, always show respect, And the only way we're all going to come out the other side of this is to encourage young women like we have on the stage here today to take the chance and to show them that it's okay when you got to go and you got young kids, that's okay. And it's true that that's always been my mandate.
Yeah, I would jump on the back of that and totally agree and say communication has been super key for us as a team. When we hire, it's a very general, maybe you don't have all the skill sets, but you love what we're doing and you love the mission, and we are a very mission-driven, totally mission-driven team. So everybody that works for us has come to us saying, I have a passion for this and I want to help, and this is why I want to be part of the team. And I think that's what makes us so cohesive together, is we all understand that this obviously is our job, but it doesn't feel like a job, like you said. Like, it's just, we enjoy coming in, we enjoy the office atmosphere that we have. We work out of the Genesis Center, and I'm sure everybody who sees us cracking jokes quite frequently. But we all just get along so well, and so communication that, you know, if you have something come up or something you need to run for something, there's always people there to pick up the pieces for you, and we always lean on each other for support just through communication.
So, talking about the challenges or even putting out for the team, it's, I think, more you have to think before you react. And I agree that what Charlene or Bronwyn was talking about, communicating or understanding towards your team is very important. You have to see they are human as you are. And as they have lives, and mistakes do happen when you do something. Mistakes are not intentional. So if it is intentional, they won't be on your team for sure. But if mistakes happen, you just think through it. What is the solution for it? What is the alternative for it? And you act based on that. So for us as leaders, me and Purvi always discuss about it before we discuss how to solve that problem towards our team, because we are a young team, and it is necessary that how we pose it, we also have to understand how to pose that a problem towards it, how that can be solved, and we discuss and take the opinions of the team for sure in order to solve or get through that challenge. Yeah, that's how we get through it. Yeah.
I think we're fortunate to say that we haven't really had, like, you know, a big problem in the company. So for us, it's also like communication, like they mentioned. So every day we do have like a daily check-in, just like the three things: what are you doing? What did you work on yesterday? And what are the challenges? So every day, if you get, you know, those things like challenges every day, and you just work on it, it will not like progress into something really tough to face. So I think we're very lucky in such a way that I also treated like the staff, which are also all mothers and breastfeeding mothers, that I really spend my time to talk to them every now, you know, once a week, just to discuss if there's anything even personal that they need help on. So we all work as a team, for sure.
Excellent. So we hear empathy, communication, fostering risk-taking and enabling that. And I love the daily tasks. Those are great ways to work together. Do you have business support or people that have helped you that have been kind of pivotal in your success, whether it's, you know, an incubator, an accelerator, a mentor? Can you talk about that? We'll start with Leanne.
I'm smiling face up, you know, from ear to ear, because it's definitely Genesis. I really owe a lot to Genesis because, you know, again, as a newcomer here, I didn't even know how to, you know, put up a business, sign up a corporation. And I would also, you know, my ex-boss, who I really, one of the few people that I first know in in Newfoundland, when I was trying to incorporate the company, you cannot incorporate if you're not a permanent resident or a citizen. My boss was like, put my name in. I'm going to support you. And so she's one of the reasons why the company got formed. And of course, the family, like eventually my husband understood that this is what my wife wants, and I will be supporting her all the way.
So I always compare how you're a new parent and your child teaches you how to be a new parent. And also, to raise a child, it takes a village. In a similar way, for a startup, it takes an ecosystem, which is a great ecosystem here, right here in Newfoundland. And we feel very fortunate to be in this ecosystem as right from the very first pitch and pick or introduction to the pitch and pick from Genesis, or the techNL and MCE. So there is amazing people around you who always push you towards a direction when you are talking about your idea or a problem, or you want a networking to be done. The only thing you have to do is to reach to them. So yeah, it was always encouraging for us to whomever we talked. So they only showed us a direction. So yeah, I just owe to the ecosystem here. Yep.
I would probably jump on the back of that as well. Genesis Center has been marvelous for us, same with techNL, MUN, MCE, Bounce, you name it. We've had a lot of really great supports here in the ecosystem, but I think just the people who are passionate about the ecosystem have been a game changer, because there is so many places you can go for resources on how to set up business and how to run your company, and you can run through accelerators and programs everywhere, but having the one-on-one check-ins and the conversations and advice through networking sessions, I think that has been the massive game changer for us. So whether it's the social events that are put on, or we have one-on-one meetings that are set up through, oh, I know this person, they could definitely help you. We've met so many people, and I think that is how we have gotten as far as we have, is just through the connections in the ecosystem. So I definitely think that the incubators, the accelerators, and the supports are there, and they can be incredibly beneficial as you're starting up, but actually having the people who are passionate about what you're doing and can help you in that ecosystem, that's been, I think, for us, the crucial point.
God, I feel so old here this morning. You know, when I started this 25 years ago, I was the only Canadian and only female on the board and the executive leadership team and so on. So I can't tell you that I had a mentor. What I had was pure determination to succeed. And so there was a lot of challenges. And even when I needed help or would have liked to turn to some of them for advice, I wouldn't, because I thought that, well, they're going to look down at me and say, well, this is, this little Canadian who lives in this island in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean, and she's a nurse, and what does she know? So I didn't. And unfortunately, that, I learned a lot of lessons that way, but I learned them the hard way. And this is what I love most about this room and this audience and the Genesis Center and techNL and all of the other advocacy groups that are out there, just, encouraging us to share our stories, because this is how we succeed. And I would never want anybody to rewalk the path that I did, because we shouldn't have to anymore. And it's through supporting one another like this that I think we're gonna change the ecosystem.
I'm glad you mentioned. I feel I've been through the same kind of process as you did, with just, there wasn't as much support, and I think women tend to feel imposter syndrome a little bit more, and so you kind of just covered up. But it's good to hear that there's a lot more support these days. Okay, we all love hearing pitches and hearing stories about pitches, whether they went well or whether they didn't go as planned and you learned something from them. Tell us about a memorable pitch, whether an elevator pitch or on TV, whatever. Charlene, we'll start with you.
Oh, God. I can tell you my most embarrassing pitch, and it's a really old one from more than 20 years ago. So I'll tell you, I've got two sons who are avid hockey players. So those of you who are young in the audience may not remember the old cell phones, which were the flip phones. So anytime I travel, I would always tell my kids, don't call me unless it's life or limb. In other words, you're about to take your last breath or there's blood hitting the ceiling during whatever hours that I was pitching. Anyway, I was on stage in San Antonio in front of an audience of about 2,000 people in the telemedicine field, and I got on the stage, and there was a panel just like us today. There was 4 panel, and then there was the moderator. So when we got on and they hooked on our mics, and the moderator said, your mic won't be activated until we introduce you. So it was all great. So we got on the stage, and I realized I hadn't turned off my cell phone. So I reached for my cell phone to turn it off, and as I did, my cell phone rang. And so back then you couldn't just go ignore. You had to answer, hang up, and then go start, power off. Like, it was a long process. There was nothing quick about turning off your cell phone. So I started that, and I didn't get to complete it before the phone rang again. So here I am on stage, and so I just kind of pushed back and tried to hide what I was doing, and it rang. So I went through the same process, hung up, power off, and then he went the third time. So I was like, oh my God. So I pushed back, and I just picked up, and I said, I can't talk, I'm presenting. And then this little voice said, Mom, I'm sorry, it's an emergency. So I kind of pushed back a little bit further, and I said, oh my God, what's wrong? And he said, in a very clear voice, Ryan won't get in net. And I said, what? And he said, we're playing street hockey, and Ryan won't get in net. And he handed him the phone and said, here, just tell him to get in net. So he handed his brother the phone, and I said, Ryan, if you don't get in net this very minute, you will never live to see the light of another day. And just as I started that, my mic was activated. And I didn't realize till I looked around in the audience, and everybody went, and I thought, oh my God. So all I could do was just say, I'm really sorry, but I'm Canadian. And I have two boys that play hockey, so one wouldn't get in net, and here we are. So anyway, to this day, I still run across some of those people who say, I so remember your pitch that day. And initially when I heard it, I thought, what did I even talk about? But now I go, oh yeah, the hockey story. So.
I don't know if I can follow that up. Mine is not a funny one.
I wouldn't want you to.
Yeah, I don't know. Wow, that's a good one. I haven't had an experience like that yet. I've done a lot of pitches, as I'm sure probably most of you in the room have seen over the past 6 months. That's pretty well all I've been doing. It's a full-time job. I think getting up on stage is super exciting, and I love being able to tell an entire room about what I'm doing, and hopefully they see the passion in my eyes when I talk about it. But I think probably one of my top experiences are the one-on-one pitches that I do with people of, we'll say, importance in the field, those Parkinson's leaders, because it's them that it's going to change their lives and the lives of their patients. And so just last week, I actually just got back from the UK last night, and I had a meeting with one of the top Parkinson's specialists in the world. And to say I was nervous going into that was an understatement. And I have me and my intern, who only started for me a week before this. And we're sitting at the table, and I'm like, okay, we got this, Emily, we can do this. So give the pitch, and then at the end, the doctor's like, this is amazing. When do we start? And I was like, this is awesome. Okay. So anyways, and if you'll meet my intern, I'm sure, eventually when she comes back, but she's very, very monotone, and we get along so well. So she comes out of the meeting, she goes, that went well. I'm like, yeah, I guess so, hey? And so it's those moments of like somebody that actually is going to be living with this software and living with this in their daily lives and shows excitement and passion about implementing the solution. I think those are the most rewarding pitches that I give. Obviously, winning money is great. That's wonderful too. But we'll say customers, they're going to be lovely in the money sense too. So having those initial conversations to start the process is very rewarding. I think that was probably my top excitement pitch. I've given a few of them, but I think that was probably my highlight.
So yeah, wonderful experiences for sure. So yeah, I cannot wait until my kids call me on odd situations. But yeah, I don't know if I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, for me, the very first pitch was the Genesis pitch. It did really give a lot of traction and exposure, but the memorable one was the one me and Purvi went and stood in front of a panel at MCE to give the pitch, where I was 8 months pregnant, and I wasn't expecting getting into a room where I have to stand in front of the panel with that 8-month belly, and I was like, I don't know, how am I going to do this? Because I was expecting somewhere to sit and just table and then we talk. But then it was a completely different scenario. So that was a very, it was a tensed moment, an odd or awkward feeling. But then that was a memorable pitch since it went through very well. And all of the panel or whoever were there always told that we wanted to see you on the stage, which never happened because COVID hit and we all went virtual and the virtual event happened. But it was so encouraging to see how this ecosystem is looking forward to push the women forward. So yeah, that was my memorable one. Thank you.
For me, I think one of the most memorable is definitely the Dragon's Den pitch, but recently, about a few months ago. So I sort of like pitched to the target, to target staff because Milksta got into the target accelerators, target forward founders, and every week we are given like chance to book a time with an investor, a staff member, even the CEO of Target, to be able like to pitch to them, talk to them about your idea. So there's this one like staff of Target that I pitched to, and after the pitch, she was just telling me her motherhood story, her breastfeeding story, and she told me like honestly, Leanne, when we were picking the companies to get into to the top 30 Target Forward Founders company, I was the only mother in the in the crowd, and nobody could understand what your company is. I fought for it like every day. She told me that I was talking to them, explaining to them like the impact that your company can do. And right after that, she was like almost crying. I was also like crying as well because if we could like hug each other, she's in the US and I was like here in Newfoundland. And she was like virtual hugs. And I don't know, I think it's just one of the most emotional pitches that I ever had.
Those are such good stories. I feel like I have to share my own story here just because of what you just said. So I used to work in bra-fitting lingerie and had retail stores, and there was a product missing, and it was sleepwear for women with larger breasts. And I had a manufacturer, I had the financing all sorted out, and I was pitching to a group of angels. This was in the US, and it was all men. And I went in, very professional, had all of the business, it was all very sorted out, good idea. And the whole room, they would like not make eye contact. And they were like, oh my God, she's talking about breasts. Like, this is super uncomfortable. And then I heard one of the guys said like, oh, and how big is this market? And the guy next to him said, large. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And that is partly what led me down the investor path. But yeah, pitching is intense. So thank you for sharing those stories. Okay, now let's talk about funding. Actually, building on the story I just told. We know that women face additional hurdles in raising funds. Can you tell us if you've experienced any of these hurdles and how you handled it? Let's start with you, Leanne.
I think, of course, I did in the beginning because, like nobody wants to talk about breastfeeding. Nobody wants to talk about like nursing and all that. So everyone that I spoke to like in the beginning, they don't even want to hear the rest of it. So that's definitely one of the, struggles when it comes to it. And I think also like for me, I had this mentality before that I don't want to have someone else, it's because it's a very personal product. It's a very personal company. So sometimes I'm scared of like just people like getting into your way of how you think of running your company.
So we are just getting into interacting with the investors. So I'm very new to that side of it to say like if I had any biases or any different experience or any hindrances to the funding, because so far the funds raised was to the government resources and friends and family for us. But what I hear is definitely there, as Andrea was saying earlier, that it's a women-led companies which are more successful. And I think the investors shouldn't have that bias when they are talking to our investors, the companies or women-led companies, because they should have that perspective, or at least communicate that what you are looking for in the investment. And I'm glad that Andrea and the ventures which are coming forward and Sandpipers to support women or women-led companies. And I only see in few decades that it's going to change the scenario, how it's going to be. So yeah, that's my part.
For us, I think it's a bit different in that we have a guy and a girl. So there is both sides of it at the front of everything. My public speaking skills from my dad growing up have definitely helped me to make sure that I am heard in a room. So thank you to Dad for that one. But I think that sitting down, as a 25-year-old female, and I sit in a room with a bunch of men, and I'm like, hey, it's going to be incredibly helpful to have women at the table who are in the investment side so that they can understand and see from your perspective. We've had, initial conversations. One thing that we struggle with as a med tech company is they want to see traction in sales, and you cannot get that for a long time if you're selling to a public healthcare system. So it's really just leveraging a lot of the non-dilutive side for us, which we have been super grateful to not have struggled with. We've won a lot of pitch competitions, which has leveraged a lot of non-dilutive funding, and the NRC and the province of Newfoundland have been super supportive in that. So that is how we have survived to this point. As the investment side comes up, I'll hopefully be able to give you a little bit more on that side of the conversation. But to this date, luckily the funding opportunities here have not been as a bias in that side.
Again, I'm showing my age. I keep saying this, and we're very old school, but I was very fortunate in the beginning that the investors that had invested in the organization believed enough in the future of the company and dreamed along with me that they kept investing. And the proceeds of the company, we didn't pay the shareholders, we didn't take any money out of the company for almost the whole life of the company, in all honesty. We just kept reinvesting in. So we didn't do a lot of financing early on. The only time I really made a pitch for money was about 15 years ago when we pivoted and decided to become a technology company. And even though at that time we were profitable, we didn't have enough money to be able to hire a team of software engineers and design the platform that we needed in order to continue running the programs and expand into biometric monitoring and so on. So I had heard last minute that ACOA was providing funding. So I sat down and got 2 big poster boards. It's still the big joke for those who are still around the company, and drew out what I needed the platform to do in order to be able to receive alerts from devices all throughout the US and to translate clinical protocols. And so I drew it out in 2 poster boards, reached out to ACOA, and we had a little tiny office on Forbes Street. And I remember like yesterday, George Power, I don't know if anybody's here from ACOA, George Power came in and he said, okay, so what have you got? And I said, just come into my office, and I showed him, and there's these 2 big poster boards. And he said, what's that? And I said, that's what I want. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I said, we need to build a platform. We can't grow with what we have. It's archaic and so on. So he said, where's your business plan? I said, there it is on those 2 poster boards. And he said, okay, we got some work to do because this is due on Tuesday. Anyway, long story short, we took that and put it into a proposal, and we were successful in getting $2.5 million. And that was the pivotal point for us from moving from a service organization into a technology company. And for anybody who's in the service industry and anybody's in the tech industry, I'll tell you the money comes from technology, because it's really hard to make a good dime in the service industry, especially in healthcare, because the cost is so great. But so that worked. And I think now when we look at investment for young entrepreneurs and companies that are getting started, it's to reach out and look at how we can support one another. And I've always been most passionate about keeping the company here and growing the company from Newfoundland and giving back to the province and that supported me and so on early on. So I'm very quick for anybody that's a startup that's coming to say, this is what I'm doing. And do you know anybody, or is any thoughts on how I could access some funding and so on? So I think for in Newfoundland, for the senior business leaders who are here, women in particular, we need to do that. If there's a piece of business to a local company instead of farming it off to God knows where, let's do it. And if we can make connections with somebody, with some of our current clients throughout, in the US or wherever the market they're going at, then let's do it. And that's what's still to this day mostly, and that's probably what I love about what I still do today, is that we've had enough breath that we can do that.
Great, thank you. Before I keep going, can I get a time check from you, Laura? Do we have like 5 minutes, 10 minutes? 5, okay. All right, so we've got probably 2 questions left. let's talk about, women supporting women is fantastic. Events like today are fantastic. There are all these great ecosystem supporters. Let's talk about what you think men can do in this space to help advance equality and just support women entrepreneurs in tech. Leanne.
I think in support of the other mothers who are maybe also in the same situation, I would think that men should also step up at home. I think that's one major factor that helped me because, the mental load, the invisible labor that women have, like in managing the household, it's a lot. And sometimes I would say it's partially like the hindrance for me, like going further, like right in the beginning because I had to take care of the household. So if men could, of course, like if they would be willing to share the load of the child care, managing the household, that would really be helpful for advancements of women or the mothers.
So yeah, coming from the part of Asia, I think largely women is the one who does a lot of things at home. But I'm glad that, I don't know if Purvi is here, but yeah, he played a very major role in me being here. He always pushed me where I am. And in also situations where I thought I wouldn't be able to stand or do things, he was always there. But in a scenario where when you're in a business or when you're interacting with an investor, a company or an organization, and that part of the gender is not similar as you, I would recommend that because we are all different, we have different mindsets, and women's minds are definitely different than men's. So I think there should be a consideration on that table there when you are interacting with the other gender, what that person is going through. I think largely for women, the step back, as Marlene was saying about how it was difficult for the transition from being so long being a mother and then transition to the States. So understanding such situations is very important on the other side of the table where women are there, or any other gender or race. It could be different, but consideration and that interaction from the investor or the company or the organization or a leader is very important to give that direction to the women, and that support is very essential to the community. And that's where we see more of that diversity from the women and the man or men. And you would be able to see, I don't know if we can say equality, but diversity is the key for the stage or for a bigger progress in any community or a family or anywhere. So that's what I recommend for the other side of the table to consider. Yeah, thank you.
Like I said earlier, I've grown up practicing how to make sure that my voice can be heard in a room, but I think from the other side of the table is really to make sure that you're listening to what the other side of the table is saying. And it goes both ways, 100%. But I think that taking that moment to understand that you may not be in the same position as them and that their opinions matter and their voice should be heard. And sometimes just listening and no comments back can be super beneficial. I know sometimes when I'm feeling down, I'm just like, I just want to rant and not have any feedback. And so, yeah, I think that just when you're having a conversation, just to make sure that, you may not understand it from their side. So if you can take those 30 seconds to just take it in and just hold it there, that can be super beneficial in those conversations as well.
Like you, I grew up with 4 brothers, so my voice was always heard. But I think, I so look forward to the day when we don't talk about men and women. And, even now when I travel, I still see look of surprises on people's faces when I'm traveling with a group of men and they introduce me as CEO versus one of them. And I find it amusing now more than anything else. But I really look forward to the day when this conversation has gone away. And I think it's going away because some of them, senior business leaders in our community now, who are men, I feel are so supportive of women organizations and entrepreneurs and startup and so on. And I think they're starting to see that, women are a little bit different in a sense that once they got a drive to do something and a passion to do it, boy, you just better get out of their way because, we're going through no matter what. So I think the tide is changing, but it's keep doing it. So I don't talk a lot about it, I just keep doing it. And I think it's by doing it and making change that we're going to change the ecosystem.
Nice, Thank you. All right, last question. What is the most fun part of being involved and leading a business? And any last words of wisdom for the audience? Charlene, we'll start with you.
You know what, again, for me, it's back to how, my roots, and it's so important for me to stay here. And the fact that we're here in Newfoundland and have grown here in Newfoundland and, providing employment for hundreds of employees locally, that's what's important to me, and I love it. And as well, it's important to share the story locally of success and to help others continue to go. That's still what I love the most. And at the end of the day, I, like everybody else here on this panel, is making the difference in somebody's life and their well-being. So to make a living helping others be well and stay well, we're all very fortunate, I think.
I would say my top two things that bring me joy are, one, my team. So going into the office is exciting. I'm very excited to go back today. And like I said, we joke around. We have a lot of fun. We played some croquet a couple weeks ago. We had a blast doing that. It's just great bonding, and everybody loves being there, and they tell me they love their job, and hopefully they're not lying to me. But the other side of that is that I love seeing the joy in, we brought in patients for our usability study and actually getting to see them, even though at the time it was really being worked out in the software, so it was probably a little more frustrating than anything, them being like, I'm so excited to use this like on a weekly or monthly basis. So I think that is what always brought me passion, was being able to give back to healthcare in some way. And I grew up with a mom who was a nurse, and she used to tell me the same thing: unless you're dying, do not call me. And so I've really always been driven in helping healthcare in some way, shape, or form, because I watched her grow up. I grew up while she was working. But being able to see the passion behind patients and seeing that this could make a difference in their lives, I think that's what takes me to the office every day.
I fall in the similar lines. I think it's the purpose that motivates you or keeps you going. So the purpose for me is to consider health in the long term, and also consider the how we can make a change in terms of using the microbiome and understanding yourself in order to live a better lives. So that purpose was given to me by my mom, and I make sure to live on that purpose for the rest of my life. And that is what makes me keep going. And my message would be just learn from your experiences, whether good or bad, and put it back to your purpose, and then just keep going. Even if you think you are not able to make it, just keep going, and you will reach to whatever the point you want to at some point. So yeah, thank you.
In my case, I think it's a combination of fun and touching. What keeps me going is like, I have mothers sending me love letters, every day, how we've helped their breastfeeding journey. And I also created actually a Facebook group where mothers can freely share about their problems and issues, and just share their, some moms will just show their pictures of the baby who's now 3 years old. Now I have a second one, and I'm still using your product. So those are the things that really keeps me going. And my last words would be, when it comes to, if the going gets tough, just keep going, because you don't want to be stuck there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of these stories and insights. That's great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't know we had time for that. Everybody back. Everybody back. All right. Now you guys get to ask some questions. Sorry, Charlene. I didn't even... All right. Let's hear. What would you guys like to hear from these ladies? There's microphones floating around in the audience.
Hi. More of a comment than a question. My name is Katharina Kennedy. I just thought it was really interesting to note that the 4 panelists all work in the area of medical technology, and that has become another one of our niches in the Newfoundland and Labrador tech sector is medtech, biotech, life sciences, which is brilliant. And to Charlene, who's the same generation as me, when you say you feel old, I would put back to you that it's because we feel old, that's a good thing. But also, it's because of you that the three women on the stage will not face the challenges that you faced in your career. So I thought it was important to bring that out.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
Thank you for amazing stories and inspiration. When the question was asked about, what should the men do, before anyone got to respond, I said to my table mates, the men need to keep the kids. And so I'm glad when Leanne responded to say the men need to do more of the care work. And so at this point, I just want to kind of toss it out to Genesis and techNL and all the decision makers who can support women like me who need someone to keep my kids and give me a quiet space so I can just record my workshops, to think of alternative supports, especially for, like Leanne said, she was working full-time and trying to balance children and everything. Like, not everyone can work on their business full-time in the early days. So if you can go back to your offices and brainstorm, how can you be the person to step in and support those of us who need that kind of support? Thanks.
Okay, so I think no more questions or comments? We're good? Perfect.
All right, thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you to all the panelists for such a wonderful, inspiring, and very fun conversation. Okay, and thank you to the audience for the comments. Okay, so last but not least, I would like to welcome Kim Young, who is joining us virtually on behalf of BDC Capital Strive Fund. Welcome, Kim, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. I've been watching the live stream as I obviously couldn't be there in person, but even virtually, this has been such a wonderful and engaging discussion. I want to thank everybody for attending and for the panelists for participating. A huge thank you to Genesis for their collaboration and help in supporting female tech entrepreneurs, and techNL as well, and being so active in the ecosystem. My name is Kim Young. I'm a partner with BDC Capital's Thrive Venture Fund and Women in Tech Venture Fund. As Natasha mentioned at the start of this, we recently launched the Thrive Venture Fund and Lab for Women, which is a $500 million investment platform and the largest of its kind in the world, dedicated to supporting women-led businesses. The Thrive platform really builds on the success of BDC Capital's Women in Tech Venture Fund, supporting Canadian women-led tech businesses and really allowing them to grow and have a lasting impact on the economy. As Andrew, we've heard throughout this morning kind of the impact in having women investors at the seat, and also being able to support other women entrepreneurs. We have been really excited to continue the Women in Tech Breakfast series over the last 4 years. It's enabled us to connect women in tech across the country, having regionally specific ones here in Atlantic Canada, celebrating gender equity and promoting the advancement of women in tech, and then just sharing stories so we can learn from each other. I think this panel really exemplifies that, having exceptional women leaders in tech and hearing their stories and just how powerful that is as a community, and supporting each other, but also learning from each other. So again, thank you so much to everybody for coming this morning. Thank you to Genesis, techNL, and we really hope you have a wonderful networking time, and look forward to keeping in touch with everybody. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, so thank you, Kim, for joining us. And thank you, BDC, again. Okay, so what a great morning, everyone. And really, I hope everyone enjoyed the event and the panel, the breakfast. I certainly did, so happy to have you here. Before I let you go, we want to announce the winner of the draw for the door prize, a 4-piece collection of skin and hair care items by 7 Fathoms, and a women-owned store based in Newfoundland. So that's just the number? Yeah. Okay, so if you can check your tickets. So we got, does everyone got the ticket? So we got number 9989083. I really hope everyone kept their ticket, or at least the winner. So 9989083. Do we have a winner? Or do we try again? Do we? Oh, we do. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Well, congrats. And okay, so it's now time to wrap up. And before we go, I would like to thank BDC and techNL for this fantastic collaboration that helped us bring together this outstanding group of women and their allies. Also, a very special thank you to our incredible moderator, the panelists, the ASL interpreters, and the audience who joined us in person and virtually. And thank you so much to the Genesis team for all the support with the planning for this event. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay. And also, don't forget, we have a networking session, so we got some time, probably until around 11:30 a.m. So you feel free to, network and get some photos taken at the Hijinks photo booth that is just right there. And then, just enjoy the rest of the day, and hopefully we will see you later for the techNL Ceremony Awards. Okay, and stay tuned for Genesis social media channels for the upcoming female founders, and Fortifiers breakfast that we will host in the new year. So stay tuned. Thank you.